We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and welcome to this week's Sit and Talk, the show where you can ask us anything about whatever you want. We rotate different content producers through this. Next week will be Josh. So if you want to ask Josh any of your questions, leave them in the comments below, whether you're on YouTube or on our website. Either of those works. So I'm just going to jump right into this, of course, and start answering your questions. I'm set the timer for about an hour. That's about how much time I have, or until I get through all the questions, whichever comes first. But I'll do my best to get through all of your questions. Demon Wing 74. Matthew, Lord of the Campaign Narrative. Always glad with all the content you are producing there at Mini Wargaming. You and your whole crew make my long days building cars easier. Well, thank you. Two questions. First, with the announcement of the new Kill Team, any plans on running a Kill Team campaign or simply blending it into some current campaigns you are working on? No, but that's answering the question, any plans. So my current plans are, we're currently filming an Age of Sigmar campaign, which is going really well. I love it. I'm doing it with Luca. He's a vampire lord who's rising in power. At the same time, I just finished filming a 40K narrative campaign with Skari. Skari was actually the games master and I was the player. It was the death of the chapter, all about the Space Marine chapter I had custom made. And so that one's all done filming, and now he's got to do all the post-production stuff with our editors, and so that I don't know when that's going to be coming out. And Dave is currently working on a 40K narrative campaign for the Expendables. And then after I'm done this campaign with Luca, I'm off for a month because we're going to be having our 5th child. And so I'm going to take a few weeks off because my wife is having a C-section, so the recovery is going to be longer. And I thankfully am in a position where I can take extra time off, so that's nice. And so after that, I've got a few ideas brewing in my head. I want to do a This Is Not a Test campaign. This Is Not a Test is an indie game. It's a post-apocalyptic game. It's like picture Fallout meets Necromunda, and that's, that gives you an idea. It doesn't do it justice because it's its own thing. But I'm thinking of doing that. We're planning a Battlefleet Gothic campaign as well. So Kill Team's not on my radar yet, but that doesn't mean it won't be. And so when I say no, we don't have any plans, that's like only covers the next few months. So I don't know what'll happen or what'll change. Like maybe I'll pick up the book, I'll read it and be like, oh, this is super cool, and I'll want to do a campaign. That's honestly what influences what we do. Well, part of it, what influences what we do, is just what we're excited to try out as well. So that's that answer. Second, shortly after your last Sit and Talk, there was a major teaser for the Black Templars. Are you excited for this? No, not that I wouldn't play them, but not particularly excited for new armies because we've been, I don't know, the newest army that I'm excited for is the Orc Warclans one for Age of Sigmar, and unfortunately I won't be here to cover it at first, and so somebody else will have to take care of that. But overall, no, I don't typically get super excited for for updated armies unless they're some of my super passionate ones. Like I think I'd get excited if I heard Tyranids or Genestealer cults. But Black Templars are cool. I think their lore is neat, their aesthetic is neat, but excited? No, I wouldn't use the word excited. You and Steve's last campaign used Black Templars is what got me to sign up for the Vault. Thanks for the Sit and Talk. Well, thank you. And thank you for becoming a Vault member, because it's honestly, it's the only reason we're able to do this is because of our Vault members. Flaming Walnut. Hello there, Matthew. Hope you and your family are in good health, and well wishes to the entire Mini Wargaming crew. Well, thank you. I have recently moved back home to Michigan, and one thing I was looking forward to was finally getting myself organized and able to make a trip out to Mini Wargaming headquarters for some games and fun with the crew. I know COVID has made many dealings like that really uncertain, but I heard that Canada is potentially reopening its borders soonish. Yes, they are. So do you have any plans on taking in guests again for filming battle reports and such? Yes, absolutely. We haven't put out the announcement yet, and I don't think by the time the Sit and Talk we will have. But I believe the date is August 9th is when Canada is opening up its borders to the United States, to Americans, not to the world, not yet, that's in September, who are fully vaccinated. So if you want to visit Mini Wargaming, you can actually, I'll just say it right now, you can email josh@miniwargaming.com to make arrangements, and we'll figure out where we can slot you. It might only be for one day, although you're welcome to stay for more than one day in case we have more room, or just because you want to just play in our tournament hall with our local players or whatever else you want to do. You can, well, our rooms will be available, the hotel rooms, or whatever you want to call them, will be available for you to rent as well if that's where you like to stay. And there's Niagara Falls nearby, there's Toronto not too far, so there are other things to do as well. So yeah, josh@miniwargaming.com. You can totally email him right now and start getting details in place. But I can say right now, if you are an American who wants to cross the border, you definitely will need to be fully vaccinated. That's not like my rules. That's the rules for being able to cross the border. If you're a Canadian, then the rules are, there might be some changes to the actual rules in Ontario come Monday, so I'm not sure what that's going to be. But you're welcome to email us right now as well, because we've already started to have guests back in here, just a little bit at a time. So you do need to be okay with filming without a mask on. So if you're like, no, I want everybody to wear masks, then we're not going to be doing that, because our laws allow us to film without masks. While filming, but there's certain areas that you won't be able to go in. We do have a lot of safety things in place. Most of our staff are fully vaccinated, all that kind of stuff. But that's for a different video. I was going to actually be making a more formal announcement of that sometime in the next week, hopefully. It's definitely on my hobby bucket list to come up and visit, play some games, and maybe even knock out a narrative campaign or something similar. Either way, keep up the fun stuff. You guys are always fun to watch. Narrative campaign's a little trickier, just off the cuff. Our plans were always, and so these are preliminary, is to offer that as like event packages. So it's something that you'd pay to do. And so if you have an idea of something that you and your buddies want to do, you want to come up for a week and do like a specialized campaign where I run that campaign, then email Josh as well and tell them what you want, and we can kind of try to work out some sort of package deal. Because there's a lot of work that goes into that, and so that's part of the future of the Mini Wargaming Bunker, is offering events like that and tons of other events as well. So that's separate. If you're just talking about coming in for like a day for some battle reports, then just email them and we'll figure that out. Mick525, hello Matthew. Thank you for the awesome work you guys are doing. A random question for you. I'm going through the older D&D Heroes of Herrenberg campaign with Nibs, Rin, Lars, etc. Finished the first and on to the second. And was wondering if you'd remember in the Tiefling in the Catacombs who tempted the group with a kobold hunt, info on the Cult Slayer, and had an awesome back and forth with Brother Rin on his healing of others being against his faith. I do remember that, actually. It was a fun social encounter. The group wasn't sure if they could take her on or not. Could they have? No, definitely not. That was a high-level mage, essentially, with some tricks up her sleeve. I don't remember all the details I had planned, but it would have been a difficult fight for the group. That was supposed to be the aura she gave off, right? I'm beyond you, and so it was. And I didn't have specific plans for her. It was, because I do that a lot. I'll throw stuff in and see what sticks. And I do that with my own D&D campaigns at home too. You seed all sorts of things, and then you kind of chase after the ones the players seem most interested in, or the ones that just feel the most fun and engaging. So that just didn't work out, because it was a short campaign anyways. I understand if you have no ideas, it did take place a while back. No, I do actually remember. Thank you for the awesome work that Mini Wargaming is doing, and thank you for all the work you put into narratives. Well, thank you for the compliments. Arkham Hero 21. Hey, Matt, first want to say congrats on the incoming addition to your family. Thank you. Question about the video publishing process that you guys have. Do you and or Dave have to overlook every video that is put out to ensure quality, or do you have faith in your crew in order to put out the quality content you guys always do? Thank you and happy wargaming. Our schedule does not allow us to have the level of quality assurance that would be nice to have. The cost that would require for that is a little too much. We do attempt to do our best, of course. Like our video editor obviously edits the whole thing and listens through a lot of it. Doesn't listen to every last second of it, but we'll look, scan through the audio, make sure that none of it cuts off. We do find issues there sometimes. And then what Josh does is a battle report goes up and he watches the comments for the first little bit, because if there is some weird error that we didn't catch, then commenters will usually mention that rather quickly. So we'll catch something every once in a while because of that. But no, our process is kind of a quick and dirty process to get lots of videos out there. As time goes on, I'm not sure if that'll evolve or not into a more, it's not that we don't want quality, it's more just like you have to sacrifice certain levels of quality to get the quantity out that we want. And we've also found that the amount of effort you put into quality doesn't always return in increased views and engagement. We've found that it's more about the personalities and the fun that's put into it. Having said that, there's kind of a minimum level at least that you have to obtain, especially with more and more YouTubers coming out and really up in the game, right? Like you get all these other channels that put way more time into one battle report, and their views show it. Like you'll see them get more views per battle report than we do. The difference though is that we're putting out so many more that we're still getting more views overall, but not as many per battle report. And so that's kind of the thing. If you want to be a YouTuber, you have to think of which side you want to be on. Do you want to be on more of like just putting out lots of content for people to consume, or do you want to focus on making sure every single piece that you put out is as a work of art? And we're more in the first part. It's like there's a lot to cover, there's lots of armies, so we'd rather put out lots of battle reports lets us get more experience of the game as well and like, play lots of different things. So that's always been our mentality. Who knows, one day that'll change though. We've only been in business for like, what, around 15 years? So and that's basically the time that YouTube started. So who knows what this industry will look like in 15 years. It's hard to see past that, but things have changed so much in the past 15 years that they'll change a lot more in the next 15 years too. And we'll definitely have to continue readjusting our expectations of what we want. Here we are. Kavaraki, to Matt, hope you are well and everything with the new baby incoming is going great. It is, thank you. We hear a lot that you guys at Mini Wargaming have a lot to do and are very busy. I know you are working on campaigns and Dave does social media stuff and works on campaigns. But I'd be happy to know what the people at Mini Wargaming does, what role they play at the company. I know they play games for us to enjoy, but do they have certain areas like editing, social media, and such? So Luca and Steve are just full-time video producers, which that means they just film. That's their job, film battle reports, be in narrative campaigns. Josh has a dual hat. He does that, but he also dedicates some of his time as the general manager of everything. So he's the one that kind of manages the content. And once we get kicking back into having guests and events, he'll actually step more and more away from filming because his job actually is supposed to be to manage the events and the guests. And we know that eventually that would mean that he has little to no time to actually be in battle reports and narrative campaigns. And so that's the eventual plan for that. But obviously with COVID, that's why you've been seeing him so much because, there is no event, there are no events, there weren't hardly any guests. And so it just did that. So that's the three people that you see on camera. We have a full-time video editor and we have a part-time video editor on top of that. And we've got a full-time customer support / tech support / shipping and receiving / everything else. That's Erin and she does a great job there. And then we have a couple cleaners and then there's just me and Dave. I know Colin comes in part-time because he's working somewhere else. And then we have like Scary, who's a content producer, but he also runs his own channel. So he only comes and works for us part-time. So that's basically what it looks like. So it's basically what it looks like from the outside. The business owners, we have different things, and then Josh as well. But then everybody else usually just has their one position that they grind at, whether it's video editing or production. So GBC343, hello Matt, I hope you are well, and congrats to the new family edition. I have noticed online there is some discomfort to the new Games Workshop policies regarding their IP, especially in regards to animations, with some even worrying that Games Workshop might even try to stamp out things like battle reports. They couldn't legally, and I wouldn't even reply to a cease and desist to battle reports. I'd be like, sorry, I know that you're and they wouldn't in that case. I personally don't think that will be an issue, but what are your thoughts on this whole IP protection guidelines Games Workshop put out? Well, here's my first thought. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an intellectual property lawyer. So my opinion doesn't really matter. I'm going to say that. It's like if you ask me my opinion on COVID-19 and vaccines, like I could tell you my opinion, but it's just as good as opinion as the person next door. Like I'm not saying I don't do my research. I think in my case, I have done a ton of research on trademarks and intellectual properties and stuff. But that's all internet research, and I haven't done anything, with lawyers. Like it was kind of annoying. I remember years ago I actually contacted a lawyer to ask about trademark stuff because I wanted to know, can we make videos that are like how to paint Space Marines? Because we're using the trademark term Space Marines. I had noticed in bookstores there's all sorts of how to use Windows and how to use different products. I'm like, and that the trademark lawyer wouldn't tell me anything other than, well, you should try to get permission. I'm like, well, but if we don't get permission? Well, it's always best to get permission. And it was such a lawyer answer and annoyed the heck out of me. I'm like, no, I'm asking and I'm willing to pay you to do some research into this to find out how it works, like precedents and previous court cases, all that. And he just wouldn't. And so that was really annoying. And so that was like my only real contact with a lawyer about trademark stuff and intellectual property and all of that. The rest of it comes just from being in the industry and seeing what has become normal. Like for example, years ago, remember when StarCraft battle reports first came out? Well, I created a second channel that's still up. It's just not posting on it anymore. And it was me just doing some StarCraft battle reports. But I only put out a few videos, and there were just ones that I created. I was just trying out different things. It wasn't even real battle reports. It's more like, hey, what happens if you throw 400 Banelings into a turn like this? And I got notices from YouTube that I was using copyrighted material and I couldn't monetize it. And now, obviously, everybody does it and it's normal and it's okay. And that's because at the time, those companies didn't know what they had to do to protect their intellectual property. And YouTube didn't know what they were supposed to do either because there was no precedent, right? No real precedent. Before, they didn't have to worry about this kind of thing. And then it became normal, and now it's even encouraged by companies. And so things change rapidly. So I am not an expert in this area, so I'm going to tell you that my opinion doesn't really matter. However, I will give it my opinion, just another guy giving his opinion on the matter. I think they need to protect their intellectual property. They need to be very cognizant of that. However, I think they probably went a little too far, because the fact that I see all sorts of fan animations for like trademarks from much bigger companies than them, and they're happily moving along and doing their thing, and then Games Workshop feels a concern that they have to protect against these things. So that's probably what it is. It's probably them being like, if we don't protect this, then what's to stop them from doing this? And then we won't be able to protect it in court, because they'll be like, well, if you didn't stop those people, then why would you stop us? So there's always that too, right? Like if you don't protect your IP, then you're setting a precedent that people can abuse your IP. And that's like a precedent in court is what I'm trying to say. And so I get that they want to protect it, but it feels like, yeah, you got to be careful about how much you overreach, because yeah, there's the whole argument of free advertising and stuff. And, you know, people saying, well, those fan animations get millions of views and battle reports only get 10,000s of views. And I'm like, yeah, that's a valid point. But, you know, we actually get millions of views, just not on one video. We put out tons of videos, whereas like the Astartes fan film, he puts out one video and that's it for how long, right? So it's not really an apt comparison to look at number of views on a single video. And so exposure overall, like I know that over a course of a year, we get over 1 million unique people that watch our videos. Like I know that just from the stats that we have behind the scenes. I don't mean that we have 1 million regular viewers. I just mean like, because if one person comes and watches a video for 30 seconds and boom, they count, and if they never watch anything again. So like unique viewers is not, it doesn't mean anything. You have to look a little further than that. And so I don't know. It's hard to say. It feels like they've taken it a little step too far, but then again, they have lawyers and they consult with lawyers, and they do what they think is best. So I don't know. But in the end, I'm trying to actually hedge here, so that you realize that just because I'm behind a camera on a channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of viewers doesn't mean that I know anything about intellectual property or have enough of opinion that it should matter to the community overall. The majority of people out there on Reddit and on videos and discussing this really don't know what they're talking about, and that goes for lots of topics, by the way. Running businesses, how rules are written, vaccinations, whatever, all these different topics. We so often, as human beings, come to opinions with so little information. And I know that that's what we have to be able to do sometimes. We have to be able to make judgment calls quickly. But when you actually have time to figure something out, it's nice to be able to actually use real information about that. And there isn't much to really go on for this. So that's what I think. They need to protect it, but it feels like they're protecting a little too hard. But no, I don't think they couldn't go after battle reports. Not after all this time. Not after all these years of allowing them to happen. And even going as far as to provide us miniatures and provide us books. So it's like you go to court for that, and the judge is going to be like, what are you talking about? You've enabled this. Why would you now say they can't do it now that they've built up a business? Like, are you trying to let them build up the market and then you just step in and take it over with your Warhammer Plus? Like, there's no way that would make it through court. It would be a PR nightmare for them to do that, because all of these channels who are giving them so much exposure to their games, it would be bad PR. So it would just be a bad idea for them to do it. There's no good reason for them to do it. If you're thinking, well, then they get more people in the Warhammer Plus, it's like maybe, but then they lose all this exposure, which is much more than they could generate on their own, for sure. Not me, but everybody, like all the YouTubers together provide way more exposure than they could do on their own. But that doesn't mean they don't need to protect their IP though. So there's lines that they gotta kind of be careful with. Shadeleen, hello Matt, assuming it is not someone else with Matt dealing with a new baby. Not yet, not until August. How is the Slow Grow Crusade campaign coming along? When might we start seeing the first episodes of the series? The Slow Grow Crusade campaign, I'm not part of that one. That's like everybody but me. And I'm not sure if it's still going, to be honest. Tob, hi Matt, thanks for all the great work and congrats on the new kid. Thank you. Not here yet, but she will be soon. Not much of a question, but I would love to see a narrative campaign with the 4 mortal champions of chaos facing off against each other in a Path to Glory style campaign. Lucius, Ahriman, Typhus, Karn. Could be a competition for favor points and demonhood, or just to see who is the greatest demon god. Also would love to see some battle reports between the really important characters such as the Silent King, Mortarion, Magnus, Guilliman, the Sisters of Battle 1, etc. Like we don't know the name. And finally, a question. Which Primarch would you most like to be brought back next and why? Which Primarch do you think is most likely to be brought back and why? Oh, golly. Like, I'm obviously a Salamanders fan, so Vulcan's an easy one. Which one do I think is most likely to be brought back? No idea, because they always seem to surprise us with that. So, but Vulcan. I want Vulcan. JPay94. Hi, Matthew. I'm here to plant a seed. Death Watch Season 2 in honor of the new Codex. That is all. Congrats on the new addition to the family. To be honest, it's not a horrible idea, obviously, but mainly because I've been finding that I've been enjoying doing campaigns for new books because they include Crusade rules and hopefully new Path to Glory rules soon, because it does so much of the work for me. The Crusade system and the Path to Glory system are so good that they've written so many of the rules for these campaigns for me. Now, that's not going to be the case when I finally go to do a Death Watch campaign, or maybe a Death Watch campaign, but I just love that they've given me a flavor and a framework to work off of. So hats off for those rules. I love them. Jack Unleashed. Have you guys thought about doing some collaborative battle reports with the Dice Check guys? That's Dave's department, so I don't know. I couldn't say yes or no because honestly, he's the one that kind of networks with all the other channels. Voltec. A Fire Slayers versus Trogos Gloomspite Gits would be a fun battle report. Noted. Voltec again. With the new Cruel Buys being wrapped into orcs and rumors of Fire Slayers being wrapped with the Karajan Overlords. Really? I didn't hear that rumor. They don't seem to mesh. Do you believe more combining of armies to possibly bring the amount of factions down to a more reasonable amount will happen? I don't know. I haven't heard that rumor. Fire Slayers and Karajan Overlords, I don't see how they really go together. They're such, in the lore, they're such opposites to each other. I know they're both dwarves, but that's about all they have in common. They're so different in their background and their motivations and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah. But do I believe that more of them will be combined? No. I am very glad though that when they came out with Cruel Boys, they didn't make their own battle tome. I was so worried that they were going to. And I'm like, seriously, you're going to make a new battle tome rather than updating the existing one? But then I think they're doing the right thing for both their bottom line and also for the community, because those two things don't always line up. Okay, there's ways that are good, things that are good for their bottom line that's not always good for us, and there's things that are good for us that are not always good for their bottom line. So this one feels like both, because now I get the Cruel Boys added to my existing army, and I get my army updated, but they get to sell a new book and a bunch of really cool new models, so I can see it working. Or rather than starting a new fragmented army, which doesn't quite have enough stuff to make its own thing. I'm also having a child soon. For me, it's the first. Oof. Good luck with that. It's going to be fun. So I'm sure you are excited, and I hope it goes fantastic for you. I'm sure it will. And congratulations to you as well. And good luck with your parenthood, as it is the hardest thing I've ever done and the most satisfying? I don't know. Nothing in life that is good as... Anything that's worth having in your life is going to be hard. That's my... Anything that's easy to do, that means anybody could do it, which means everybody would have it, which means it's not something that's really different. Like it's hard. Things that are good should be hard, I guess is what I should say. That doesn't mean all the time they should be hard. Like having kids isn't always hard. We have wonderful moments, but that's what I mean. Like it's hard and you get wonderful moments. You got to have that opposition. Ludo, Matthew, congrats on more family. What future Codex and Battletome are you most excited to have coming? Also, what would your favorite model be in those? I'm excited for the Orc Warclans. I already said that. On the 40K side, Tyranids or Genestealer cults, honestly, I would love to see them updated. And not even for competitive play, but just because I want to see Crusade rules for them, especially Genestealer cults. But honestly, even Tyranids too. Both of those I would be excited for. Thinfana, hello Matt, I hope you and your family are doing fine. When will we see the Stormcast and Age of Sigmar again? Haven't seen much since the release. Keep up the great work. I had a battle report planned for them, but then I didn't end up filming that day. But you should see more of them with the new Battletome coming out. I'm assuming that Luca will pick them up and play a few games with them. Howzam, hello again. After a few episodes of the new lighting, I'm casting my vote as not a fan. A few episodes of what? Sit and talk with the lighting? Yeah, well, here you go. I just sat down in a room and turned on the lights. I was filming Narrative Campaign today. We managed to finish a little early. I'm like, great, I can do my sit and talk. And so I went and just quickly set up the tripod, turn on the camera, and here we go. Hey Matt, and from Howzam again. Hey Matt, are there any plans in the Mini Wargaming cast going to Scari's channel as a guest? His format is a bit different, and it would be interesting to see some of you switch to true tournament mode. Granted, I love Mini Wargaming because of the casual, friendly banter, and this will always be my main channel for my hobby content. Congrats on the new kit on the way. Enjoy what you can with your time off. I hope the next installment of the Hungry Nexus is on the short list after you return. Thanks for everything you guys do. There's no plans. Having said that, Skari is, and we were just talking about this the other day. He's welcome to film in our studios in his off time. That's one of the kind of agreements we have when he's coming down and working for us, is that he can also film in our studio. So you might see him start to do that with guests or even with some of our guys on their own time. So just kind of like how Steve has his own channel too, Mountain Miniatures Games. Mountain Miniatures Games, I think that's right. And you see Colin and Luca in there, and I think you see Josh in there too. And they play battle reports in that one. So it gives them a place to explore what they want to do and to grow their own community as well, which we are fully supportive of and we like. Dratmit. Hey Matt, will there be bolt action? Will the bolt action be as frequent as Horus Heresy? And would both Horus Heresy and bolt action have campaign-based games? I don't know if we don't have a frequency for Horus Heresy. That's just, I think we count that as Friday content. Our Friday content is whatever we feel like playing. That's what Friday's for. It's meant to be, you guys want to do bolt action? Let's do bolt action. Josh and I just played Battlefleet Gothic, but then he just played bolt action yesterday. So you can see bolt action. Bolt action, on the other hand, I think we have a regular scheduled once a month. So no, they're not the same frequency because Horus Heresy is whenever, and bolt action, I believe, is once a month. That's the plan right now. No plans for campaigns for either system right now. Captain Obvious, not too fond of the shadow effect applied to this video. Okay. Palinor, hey Matt, first question. What happened to the podcast? Love the RPGs and sit-and talks. Will they return? Second, the new old world Warhammer square bases or round? Well, there have to be square bases. That's what they said they're going to be. As for podcasts, I guess it's something that we need to get back into making sure we post them there. RPGs and stuff, no current plans for those because it's been hard because we didn't have guests, and so filming just with each other really stunts how much you can get done. With guests coming back in, hopefully that'll open that up and we'll see what happens. Captain Obvious, Matt, where do you buy your shirts from? The Schrodinger's Cat, for example, or Skyrim Fast Travel? Cheers. My wife usually buys those, or I buy them at nerd conventions like Gen Con and stuff like that. But if she sees funny shirts online, she'll buy them for me. So they're all over the place. Like this one, she bought this one for me. If you can't read, I'm not sure if you can read that. You probably can. The camera looks far away to me, but it says, "Dude, did you eat the last unicorn?" And the other guy says, "No," and it obviously did. Funny joke. My kids love it. How are we doing for time? I think we have plenty. Oh yeah, we're gonna get through all these questions. Arasha. I'm not sure if I said that right. Hey Matthew, any chances we are getting a show of the new Path to Glory rules for AOS played by you guys? Well, the campaign I'm doing with Luca right now is a modified Path to Glory rule set. I'm using the Path to Glory rules, but we actually created maps that he then has to go out and conquer and do missions and stuff like that. So it uses some of the Path to Glory rules, but not all of them. But there's no plans to do just a strict plain Jane Path to Glory thing. Now, having said that, that's like Dave's cup of tea is to do those ones as well, so maybe he would. But I don't have any current plans. Draco Incognito. Hey Matt, in the past you had mentioned that one of the reasons that you like the Tyranids is that they are so alien and inhuman, and that a novel that compromised that would turn you off Tyranids pretty quick. I don't know totally, but wouldn't like them as much, I don't think. Would you read a sort of compilation of shorts of battles from the Swarmlord's perspective, if the Black Library came out with something like that? In Devastation of Baal, Dante takes notice of a lesser, ancient intelligence behind the Swarmlord's eyes, completely controlled by the incomprehensible hive mind. I highly doubt something like that is even on the table, though, as I can imagine it would be difficult to write well. It's impossible to write well. If the Tyranids are what I hope they are, you cannot write a story from their point of view, because it's incomprehensible to us. Which I get, it's a fictional species written by people, so therefore they have to comprehend it to a certain degree. And so I understand that that's an interesting back and forth when you're dealing with that. But yeah, I want them to stay that way. You have the genes to their cults to humanize them. That's where you can do that. You can explore them there. But the Tyranids themselves, they should basically be an organism composed of organisms. I don't want there to be a central brain that if you kill that, you kill all the Tyranids. That trope is fine in movies and stuff when they need a quick ending. But I just don't want that. I want it to be like it's its own organism is the whole thing. And that's why they're so terrifying. And even if you beat them just by killing every last one of them, sure, that's cool. But at least you had to beat them by killing every last one of them. So no, I don't want anything from the point of view of the Tyranids. I don't. Genes to their cults? Yes. Occasional librarians latching onto the psychic gestalt consciousness of the hive mind and getting this this impression of what their goals are, sure. Little things like that are kind of cool. But no, don't turn them into like the Zerg, where they just talk back and forth and have their own human arguments, and they're just people in the end, and it's just boring. Smiling Kira, hey Matt, hoping you are having a great day. I am. Since we are nearing Orktober, will there be a new Gorka Morka campaign this year? Oh, Gorka Morka is on our radar. We no plans yet, but now that you remind me that October is Orktober, maybe we'd have to do that. We'll see. Petrified Pickle. That's great. Good day, Matthew. Thanks for the great content. When it finally comes out, do you think the new Old World line from Games Workshop will siphon away Age of Sigmar players? I have no idea. People play more than one game though, right? So I don't think it's competing with itself. If anything, it might grow both of them. It's like when a restaurant opens up next to another restaurant, you can actually see the original restaurant increase in the number of customers it has because now more people are coming to the area. I see it more like that. So, of course, but of course, that restaurant that had its competition just open next door, there's some people who no longer go to that restaurant and go over there. But the net result is usually positive. And so that's what I'm going to see. Like, yeah, it'll siphon some players away, but then it'll also add players. And so overall, both of them would benefit from that. That's my prediction, but it's impossible for me to ever know if that was true. Or do you predict that this will be a side range only for those diehard fantasy purists I still see? No, I can see them really going full tilt into it. I played fantasy but saw its many shortcomings, which I think eventually led to its demise. Huge numbers of models needed. Hey, Age of Sigmar now needs just as many models. 5-hour games with limited terrain. Do you think Games Workshop will just recast these rules or change it up? Anyway, thanks again. It sounds like they're doing 9th edition, so it's going to basically be whatever that'll be. So it's going to have the flavor of fantasy, and hopefully we'll tighten it up. We'll see. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. Pawn check. Yeah. Hey, Matthew, love your work. Thank you. Became a Vault member just this year and was surprised that you replied to the welcome email. I try to. I apologize to those who do reply to the welcome email, and I don't reply back to you. Sometimes I get so many of them that I just can't get to them all. So, I've followed your work on YouTube for some years now. Wanted to ask or suggest something. Maybe you could do something like an official mini wargaming tournament for all the employees to battle each other and determine who's the champion of Age of Sigmar 40K fantasy battles, please, each year. Oh man, I want us to still like each other though. That's the problem. Viewers could cheer their favorites and maybe even take bets, non-monetary, playing for fun. Who would win in their opinion before the game? Polls maybe, or the tournament as a whole. It'd be cool to watch you guys 100% seriously dedicated to become the mini wargaming champ. I'll be honest, I'm not interested in that at all. I don't want to try to play that competently. Like I want to play competently, of course, but like the brain power, I don't have fun playing that competitively, especially if there's something on the line. But who knows? Maybe that'll happen. So here's some questions from YouTube. Vos Noctum. Hello, while I understand that sometimes life happens and there is no video, is there some place where you let folks know there is no video for a given day? I'm not worried about the reasons or anything. Would just like some easy place to see no video today, so I don't need to go looking. Thanks. If it's a regular scheduled day that there should be content going out, we typically try to post it on our Facebook page. So if facebook.com/miniwargaming. We do our best. We don't always remember to do it though. Depends on the day and who's working and how busy we are too. GG40K, what's your view on GW and fan-made content? Already talked about that. So, yeah. Rich McGee, more Battlefleet Gothic play is always welcome, regardless of which fleets are involved. Well, you got more coming, or just came yesterday, probably. One Cool Frog. Fire Slayers do well, or did well in the second anyway, but the reason they don't see much play is I think you're replying to something. Yeah. All right, last comment. I actually got through these a little faster. Jake Dog, Matthew. If you needs help, watch your babies. I am a good babysitter. I only eats them if they taste good, and most babies got poops on them. Wow. Thank you, Jake Dog. I'm probably gonna pass. It's a tempting offer. I appreciate your willingness, but thank you. Thanks so much for joining me for this sit and talk. Remember, next week is Josh. You can leave your questions for him in the comments below. Thanks again, and happy wargaming.